If you run a company or manage a team, hiring qualified people quickly can make or break your business. Imagine a position of need going unfilled for weeks or even months because you just can't seem to find the right candidate. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. This makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results on your job post. Just in the last minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Now that is fast. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. Listeners will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Go to Indeed.com/BWN right now to support this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply.
What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the Mac Sports Connection podcast, where Alex hosts all things Mac, all things football, all things sports, right here, Mac Sports Connection, baby. The Mid-American Conference best, bringing it only the greats, Mac, to everyone.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Max Sports Connection podcast, part of the Varsity Podcast Network, presented by Learfield. I'm your host, Alex the Captain. Joining me, as always, my now slightly older co-host, Graham Giles. Graham, welcome back to the show, and happy birthday.
Well, thanks for that. Although every week I'm slightly older. That's just the way time works.
Listen, man, I'm just trying to be nice and shout out your birthday, and you got to be a whole thing about it. Come on now.
I do got to be a whole thing about it. Welcome back, everybody. An exciting week in Mac Sports, Alex. There was opening up the softball and the baseball season. Had some exciting action in basketball. A little bit of wrestling news, right? I mean, we got all kinds of sports to get to this week, and I don't know if we're gonna have time for all of them.
We've got 40 minutes to figure this out. Or at least that's what we're trying to do. But let's just start this off with basketball, right? I mean, we're in the middle of that crossover season. For those who aren't familiar with that term, crossover season is that wonderful time of year that college athletic SIDs are constantly pulling out their hair. So if you know an SID, buy them a coffee, give them a pat on the back, and tell them you appreciate all they do. That is me. I'm a college SID. Please buy me coffee, pat me on the back, and tell me you appreciate me. But we're in crossover season, and basketball is trailing off. Baseball, spring sports, all those are kicking off. And let's just start with basketball. Graham, once again, can we talk enough about the Akron Zips, who are now on a nation's best 13-game winning streak, a perfect 12-0 in Mid-American Conference play? What haven't we said about Akron at this point?
Yeah, I mean, they struggled a little bit, and only a little bit in December. But since the new year, Akron has not lost a single game, 13 wins in a row for the Zips, getting another 20-win season already under their belt. And they're already on their way to the tournament. We know that. They've locked up that tournament spot. So, hard to argue that this isn't a successful season. And they still have 6 games left to go before the season's over. So it could be an even more incredible season for the Zips if things keep going their way. Just a really good job for Akron this year, and I don't know what else to say about them. I mean, they've been incredible, and it's always a trap to talk about the top regular season team doing it in the tournament, but I think they're going to do it in the tournament, Alex.
It's dangerous words, Graham. Very dangerous words, as we've as Toledo fans and alumni know from watching the Rockets not do it for the last 40 plus years. It's tough to say that, but I think you're right. Akron looks so legit right now. Again, riding a 13 game winning streak, the nation's longest streak, 12-0 in conference play. You mentioned 6 games left. I mean, they're pretty much at this point. There's no way they don't get a spot in Cleveland. Who, by the way, we're celebrating 25 years the MAC championship, the MAC tournament championship being played in Cleveland. So, pretty wild anniversary for the Mid-American Conference that has been in Cleveland for the last 25 years. A lot of things have changed up there, but the MAC tournament has been constant. So pretty cool on that front. But we do have a player of the week this week on the men's side. We have to talk about Jalen Terry from Eastern Michigan. Speaking of beating Toledo, he helped Toledo pick up another loss. In fact, he was actually a big reason as to why Toledo picked up another loss. He averaged 31.5 points this past week. He scored a career high 38 against Toledo with 8 rebounds, 2 assists. And then he had 12 field goal attempts in the game that he converted on all of them. The first 12, he converted on every single one. So 24 points right away. And then 15 of 17 overall in the night. It just an incredible effort by him. He's just one of 4 players in the country to put up 38 points and 8 rebounds so far in the 2025 calendar year. And he put up 25 points against Ball State. Like this, what a week for this guy. I can't say enough about him. And then he is the first Eastern Michigan Eagle, and they've had some good ones, to post a 25-5-5 stat line in MAC play since 2011. What a great week.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Terry, a stud, and coming out and playing well for an Eastern team who might be sneaky come tournament time. They won't be. That's they have a shot. We've got about 6 games left for each of these teams, and Eastern they're sitting at 5-7 in MAC play right now, so they could potentially sneak their way into the tournament, but they'd have to go on a run. But Jalen Terry, great week for him. Kind of funny that in a week where you had a 25.5 assist, 5 rebound game, that's your lesser game of the week. So Jalen Terry doing a great job for Eastern. Let's talk about Miami a little bit here. And we talked about Akron being 12-0 in the conference. Akron also an incredible 13-0 at home. They've yet to lose in the jar this season. But Miami, coming into this week, their only loss to Akron. We had talked a few weeks ago about, is Miami for real? And we said after that Akron game, they could still be for real. Losing to Akron does not make you not a contender in the American Conference. It just means you went up against Akron in 2025. But Miami this week having their second conference loss handed to them by Western Michigan, still hanging around in second place in MAC play, 10-2 in the conference. But a question: are the wheels falling off for Miami? And it's funny to say that after only your second conference loss, but yeah, I think that could be the case.
Well, I think it's a funny question to ask that. It's your second conference loss, and there's only 6 conference games left, right? You're asking that question this late in the year. So if I'm Miami fans, breathe, say, all right, it's a second loss. Western Michigan, when you look at what they've done, this is a very offense heavy team. They just, for whatever reason, can't seem to figure out how to play defense. Like they've put up good numbers in some of these games. I mean, they put up 92 on Akron. They lost 105-92 to Akron. At Akron, I mean, 92 points against Akron. Who's done that this year? Very few people, right? You look at this schedule. Even this Miami team didn't put up 92 against Akron. They put up 75. So I'm not. If I'm Miami fans, I'm not worried. I think you regroup. you've got a relatively easy schedule. This week you're at home against Kent State, which if Kent State's starting to heat up a little bit. You're on the road at Eastern Michigan, but then you're home against Kent State. Then you get Northern Illinois. Then you travel to Ohio and Buffalo. Buffalo has not been great this year. And then Ball State's a little bit hit or miss to close out the year, but you've got two games that I think you have to really worry about, and it's Ohio and Kent State. Ohio down at the Convo is always a tough out. But I think other than that, you've got a pretty easy schedule. If you can get into the conference tournament with 3 losses, maybe less, I think you're probably doing fine.
I think Eastern at Eastern tomorrow night. We're talking about Player of the Week, Jalen Terry there. That's a trap game. That's a trap game for a Miami team who's reeling, coming off a loss to Western Michigan. I think this could very easily turn into a 3-game losing skid. Western, Eastern, and then Kent State. All tough teams, all teams who can beat this Miami team. And that's what I mean when I talk about are the wheels coming off. Because after losing only 1 conference game so far, to have a week where you then lose 3 is a big difference. Not enough to keep them out of the tournament. Miami certainly is going to find their way to Cleveland this year, but it's an interesting prospect that Miami could finish this week 10-4 in conference play as compared to entering it 10-1.
You know what I think is really wild, Graham, when you look at everything? Last year, the regular season MAC champion went 14-4. Miami snuck into the MAC tournament at 9-9 in conference play, 15-17 overall. And this is new territory for this Miami team, right? This has not in recent history been a historically good Miami team. So this is new territory for them. 19-6, they're 1 win away from a 20-win season. They haven't done that in ages. Maybe you're right. Maybe it does turn into a 3-game losing streak. I'm a little bit more optimistic. I think Miami's going to be fine. This is a program that they're figuring it out. They've got the right coaches. They got the right players, and you're competing for the Mid-American Conference Championship. I think Miami's going to be fine. And I'm not too worried about their stretch. Maybe they drop 1 more game the rest of the way before the tournament. I think that's the worst they do. I think they go 5-1 the rest of the way.
Well, I guess we'll check back in with them next week. Speaking of basketball, let's hop over to the women's side, and where we have an equally impressive undefeated in conference play team. For the women, Ball State is 12-0 in conference play. Leading the conference over there, 20-5 overall. A couple of 20-win teams on the women's side, right, Alex?
A couple of 20-win teams, including Buffalo. Everybody who knows this show and knows what we talk about, we're big Buffalo fans, mostly because of Becky Burke and what she's been doing. She took over for Felicia Jackson a couple years ago, and she's got this team right back where Felicia had them. And I might even argue, maybe even a little bit better, against slightly better MAC competition. I mean, Ball State has really come out hot. You've got a really strong Toledo team that you're always contending with. But I really, really love this Ball State team, and I really love this Buffalo team. And I love the fact that we're going to have at least 3, possibly 4 20-win women's teams in the MAC tournament this year.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a fun situation to be in. We talk about basketball a lot in the MAC, both on the men's and women's side, and both these sides tend to be top heavy. But the women this year, especially competitive on the top half of the conference, and how cool would it be to have 4 or 5 20-win teams coming into conference play? Are coming into the tournament, rather, on the women's side.
Are we allowed to crown a MAC Player of the Year for the women yet?
Well, I have an idea who you're going to crown, but you go for it.
I mean, I think you have to look at all the metrics, and it's got to go to either Allie Becky or Shella Watson.
Yeah, I mean, players who we could have talked about week one of the season as the prohibitive favorites to win MAC Player of the Year. That's where I was a little surprised that you're ready to crown a champion at this point, because I have those two exactly neck and neck for Player of the Year, and it's going to come down for me is do either of those teams pull out a MAC tournament championship, because that really is that's the testament to the difference maker for these players. Chella Watson can just put up buckets.
Mm-hmm.
But Ali Becky is really the operator of that Ball State team. So it's hard to compare the two. They are different players, but they are both incredibly valuable to their teams. So I'm not ready to call MAC Player of the Year just yet.
The speaking of MAC Player of the Year, the 2023-24 MAC Player of the Year, Sophia Wired was back in Toledo this last week, where they actually hung her jersey in the rafters at Savage Arena for her career that she had at Toledo. And for her efforts in being there, she got to watch Toledo earn a 21-point victory over the Akron Zips at home. So Toledo fans were very enthusiastic to see their former MAC Player of the Year and to welcome her back. I saw some of the video and that reception, and pretty cool to see Toledo and MAC alumni get their flowers so quickly after they finish their careers.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, normally we do see kind of a delay in recognizing players, but it is cool to see them get shouted out there. And then talking about the Akron's loss there, it's kind of the tale of one city for Akron in their men's team just dominating and their women's team just not. So not quite basement dwellers of Eastern Michigan, who have yet to pick up a conference win this year, but 3-9 in conference for the Zips on the women's side.
Let's move on down the list here. Basketball season, again, we're wrapping this up. It's going to be a great run the rest of the way, and I'm really excited to see how this tournament race heats up. We'll probably do some MSC scenarios for you guys here soon in terms of who, we got a lot of teams jumbled looking at those last few spots there, but we'll probably use some MSC scenarios and see who can get into what seeds for you guys here soon. But we do have some wrestling news. Graham, you mentioned wrestling earlier. Central Michigan won the MAC West, sitting at 6-1 in conference play, thanks to their recent 26-6 win over Southern Illinois University Edwardsville. And now they're locked into the MAC championship, that tournament, the 7th and 8th of March. And Central Michigan just really, really continuing what they've been able to do in recent history with wrestling in the Mid-American Conference.
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk much about wrestling around here, but CMU looking strong this season, and really a sport we probably should talk more about, because CMU has looked pretty good, not just this year, but in the recent past as well.
That's all I really have on the wrestling side. I'm going to touch on lacrosse first. You know how lacrosse is very near and dear to my heart, and how I love the sport of lacrosse, especially for my ladies at Central and Eastern Michigans, respectively. Toledo would be awesome if you started a lacrosse program so that you could compete with Eastern, but whatever. We've got lacrosse started out on the 7th, and Central Michigan's had a rough go of it, but when you look at their non-conference schedule so far, they're sitting at 0-2, but they've taken on nationally ranked opponents such as Notre Dame and Marquette, both perennial powers in women's lacrosse. Akron, a surprise jump out at the top of the standings. They're sitting at 2-1. And then last year's championship teams. Again, this is all early. This is not MAC play yet. So, read as much into this as you want. Probably don't read into it at all. Detroit Mercy and Robert Morris are combined 1-3 to start the season in MAC lacrosse play. And I got to say, I know that there were some picks for, different teams or whatever. I like the composition of this Central Michigan team. And I know, Graham, this isn't necessarily your bread and butter, so we won't dive too much into this, but I'm a big fan of this Central Michigan team. They got a lot of talented seniors coming back with a bitter taste in their mouth after not making a MAC championship for the first time since, I believe, 2020. A lot of bitter taste in their mouths, looking to get back to that MAC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the we'd like to cover lacrosse around here, and by we, of course, I mean you. But it's exciting when we see this season starting and get the opportunity to do some covering of lacrosse. It's one of my favorite sports that the MAC offers, and I didn't know really anything about it until you started covering it on the show. So glad to get to be a part of it now that I am a part of the show, and maybe people will learn to love me the way I've learned to love lacrosse.
I think they will, Graham. I firmly believe that people will love you the way that you love lacrosse.
In a very shallow and like from afar kind of way.
That's how I love you. Why do you think I don't live in Akron?
That's because you're no longer invited back after what you did at the St. Patrick's Day Parade in 2017.
We don't talk about that, okay? Anyway, moving on to MAC softball. Speaking of Akron, an impressive 7-3 start to their season. Akron, who they've had competitive softball. This is a surprise start to their year for them. Ball State sitting at 3-1. And then the Miami Redhawks, the multi-time MAC champs, early struggles. But when you look at the schedule again, it seems like the teams who are consistently at the top of the conference come end of the year love to really challenge themselves and load the front end with some talent. Miami not excluded from that. They scheduled a series with South Carolina, who everybody knows, one of those perennial SEC teams who's just always good. And then they did that with a lot of other programs that they've got on the schedule. And so they've got Utah on the schedule. They've got a couple other Power 4 programs who are just well known nationally. And they've done a great job of being competitive in some of these games, not winning them, of course, but this is a Miami team who's looking to rebuild. They lost their coach to Ohio State, lost a lot of seniors to graduation, but they're going to be anchored by Jenna Golombiowski. If I think I probably got that right. I'm praying I got that correct. Jenna, if you're listening, you're probably not, but if I got that wrong, please let me know, and I will apologize. But they're going to be headlined by Jenna, and she's done a great job for this team, and I'm excited to see what Miami does. The team that is early returns. After letting go of Candace Fenton a year ago, Bowling Green finished 6-38 a year ago. They started the year 1-15. Already early returns. They're 2-3 to start the year, building a little bit of momentum, try to get a little bit of confidence built. And they got a new coach, and I think that this is going to be the direction this program needs to go. You can't read much into a 2-3 start. You can't. But it's the confidence that I think you have to be able to build on. You don't need wins over a top 10 opponent. You don't need wins over a top 20 opponent. You just need to pick up wins, because that's going to breed that confidence. So really excited to see where these teams go. But Akron, an impressive 7-3 start to their season. I'm excited to see what Akron does this spring.
Yeah, I mean, we also want to talk about Ohio starting off the year.
Yeah,
super strong. They started out 4-0. Big wins over NC Central, Elon, UConn, and UNC Greensboro, all top teams. They've also got a win against South Alabama since then. So since then, not as great as their hot 4-0 start. They've sunk to 5-4, but still on the plus side, and a few really impressive wins to start the year. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Ball State sitting at 3-1 at the top of the conference right now. So it's hard to tell where these teams stand prior to conference play, but and with these early season series and tournaments, which is why some teams have 10 games and some teams have 4 far, is because some teams are playing series and some teams are playing in tournaments. And so the number of games is a little bit different there. But we don't really know where these teams stand yet until conference play starts. But we've seen some impressive play from Ball State. As I said, 3-1. You mentioned Akron is 7-3, Toledo 5-3, Ohio 5-4, and that big Bowling Green turnaround already at 2-3. So some exciting softball to come as the season rolls along.
Absolutely. It's I almost started singing Roll Along BG Warriors because you said roll along. So just know BG faithful. I am familiar with how your fight songs and stadium songs go. But anyway, before we get into our baseball segment, I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of the Varsity app from Learfield. It is a free app to download in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. With the Varsity app, you can listen to live to all of your favorite D1 college teams, your calls from voices across the MAC, Big Ten, SEC, and more. You can sign in, create an account, save your favorite schools, sports, and content for easy access. It's also important that you guys know you will find hundreds of incredible podcasts through the Varsity Podcast Network, including fan favorites such as Group of Five Guys podcast, Sickos Committee podcast, and yours truly, the Mac Sports Connection podcast, the #1 fan podcast for the Mid-American Conference. You guys can download the Varsity app today for free. Start listening to all the calls and podcasts that bring your favorite teams to life. Graham, we had a great interview last week with Rob Reinsettle from University of Toledo Baseball, who, as every coach should be, very high on his team. And then just a couple days later, we kicked off the 2025 college baseball season. And let's get into it. We had a great opening weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you know how excited I get about the start of college baseball. And I was tracking results all day long. A couple of surprising results from around the college baseball world, but maybe most surprising for fans in the MAC is Toledo pulled out a victory against then number 12 Oregon. Toledo goes to Eugene, ends up pulling out a victory. Game 2, an incredible catch makes SportsCenter top 10, number 6, I believe. Incredible diving catch by Luke Walton. One of the guys we called out in that Rob Reinsettle interview. Luke Walton had a great weekend and an incredible catch that ends up on SportsCenter. And Toledo pulls out the win against Oregon. And, we don't necessarily talk about baseball wins the way we talk about a football or a basketball win, where one win is pretty defining. In baseball, it's a little different just because of the way that the pitching works and how important pitchers are in the game. But picking up a win in Eugene, first series of the season, and coming out and getting that victory, that's a big win for Toledo, and it goes to show just how good these Rockets might be. And really, I think that's where we start. We'll do a breakdown here of opening weekend a little bit, but let's start with the Rockets here. Coach Reinsettle told us last week. He said that this Rockets team was going to be a defensive and pitching specialist sort of team, a team that we've been used to over the past few years of having some guys who can really hammer the ball. But that's what we saw against Oregon. It's a team, a Rockets team who shut down Oregon in a way that really allowed them to pull out a win. This is a team who ended up with Pitcher of the Week honors for RJ Shunk, who came out and let me pull up the stats here. RJ Shunk pitched 5 shutout innings for the Rockets as they got that 5-3 win against Oregon on Saturday. He didn't allow any walks, didn't hit any batters or have any wild pitches, which is just incredible. Also incredible, didn't allow a single extra base hit. So, I mean, that's the kind of pitching dominance. He opened his start by retiring 15 of 19 batters faced, including the first 10 Oregon hitters. So I don't know how good you are at math, but that would be the entire Oregon lineup. He sits down. He stranded 2 runners each in the 4th and 5th innings to keep the game scoreless, and that's the kind of working through adversity that you like to see from a pitcher early in the year. 5 shutout innings, and really the difference maker then in this game that allows Toledo to convert that 5-3 victory. And then, you know, we mentioned the Sports Center catch. That's great defense. So great pitching, great defense, and a great win for Toledo to start the year.
Well, and I think too, when you kind of dive into that box score even more, right? You know, everybody's like, you know, Toledo got a little bit lucky with that win. No, Toledo dominated Oregon. Toledo was up 4-0 going into the 8th inning. Toledo never trailed in this game, and then in the 9th added an extra run just for the insurance. And you know, for me, this is a statement win. You know, obviously great pitching, and I want to give RJ Shunk his flowers. Of course, I want to give this team their flowers. They earned this win, but this is. If you're Toledo, one, this is your first win over ranked opponent since 2015. So this is huge to kick off your 100th year of Toledo baseball. But Oregon was, and probably still is, the Big Ten favorite. Like, this wasn't like you went and beat a bad Ohio State team in baseball. This wasn't like you beat a bad Michigan State. No, Oregon is the Big Ten favorite. And I know you and I kind of joked that Oregon's actually still a Pac-12 baseball team, and I can get on board with that, Graham. I am 1,000% on board with that. But it's, I mean, this was a statement. Yeah, yes, Toledo lost the series. I don't want to act like they, came out and went 4-0 against Oregon, but this was a statement victory for the Rockets over one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, and a victory against a team like Oregon, and when we joke about that, when I say this is a victory over a Pac-12 opponent, it's just because the MAC has in the past matched up okay against Big Ten opponents. That's not all of them, and not consistently, but the MAC has had a little bit measured success against the Big Ten in the past. The MAC has had very little success against the Pac-12. And so that's the reminder here that the Big Ten has become a completely different baseball conference. As different as this conference is in football, they are even more different in baseball, picking up those West Coast teams. And so when we talk about Oregon as a baseball opponent, it's a big deal. This is a big win for the Rockets. And yes, even though Oregon was able to win the series, this just spells good things for this Toledo team this year. Elsewhere in MAC baseball, we've had some impressive baseball going on.
Yeah,
Akron is 2-1 in baseball so far. They started the year off strong with 2 wins over Radford. Sorry, I'm losing all my notes today. It's I was following that Radford series, and a lot of the series this weekend got bumped. Instead of one game each day, anticipating weather, they became double headers and then a single game the following day. And this Radford series was the same thing for Akron, but Akron is able to get 2 victories over a tough Radford team. They look strong all day, and they have Jack Poist take away Player of the Week in baseball. He slashed 417, 750, 611. He had 5 hits in 12 at bats, 5 walks, drove in 6 runs, and scored 6 times himself. He also went a perfect 2 for 2 on stolen bases. So racking up bases early in the season. Akron has got to be excited about that. This is a Zips team who every year I get excited. Maybe this is the year Akron really is a strong baseball contender in the conference. And every year they find a way to let me down. But I've got my hopes up again. This was a great opening series for the Zips, and a great opening series for Jack Boyce, and good for him to take away Player of the Week honors.
Well, and I'm excited for Akron, right? This is as everybody knows, famously Bowling Green canceled their program during COVID, but Akron just only recently brought their program back as well. So for them to have any sort of real success, that's huge. They brought in Chris Sabo to kind of initially electrify fans and get people excited about the former World Series champion coaching this program. And it didn't work out. Chris Sabo is obviously now elsewhere, but I think now you've got an opportunity to get guys in here who just want to kind of grind it out and play some gritty baseball. And they played a couple of gritty games this weekend against Radford, a 10-inning victory, an 11-inning loss, and then finally just the bats were just going on Sunday, 17-4 win to clinch the series against this Radford team. And I really think that, I'm not gonna say Akron's gonna go to the MAC championship tournament, but I think we're gonna finally see some competitive Akron here. And I think that's great, not only for Akron, but for the entire league.
Well, Akron is one of those teams who's close enough to Northeast Ohio to really make an easy trek to Avon. And so it would be great to get some Akron fans to that MAC tournament later this year. We're not going to count our chickens, but love to see close wins early on, face a little bit of adversity and rise and overcome it, and then to really collect themselves and get that big win on Saturday. It just looks great for Akron. Elsewhere around the MAC, we really want to get to these kind of our preseason picks here, or I guess not preseason anymore. Now
pre-conference play picks.
That's right. But we did want to shout out Ball State with a big win over Maryland. Now this one I would call a Big Ten win. But it's a Maryland. A lot of folks have picked as the Big Ten champ this year, and Maryland puts together a good squad. Seems like every year, and Ball State picking up a win over them. Ball State might be who we thought they were. A lot of preseason folks picking Ball State to win the MAC, including the coaches poll in the MAC itself has Ball State as preseason favorites. And then BG, Alex, tell me a little bit about BG. They had a decent weekend as well.
Man, BGSU baseball just feels like they're going to try to pick up where they left off a year ago. They had an incredible kind of shock the world in Mid-American Conference play run and raced all the way to the MAC tournament, I believe as the number 1 seed after winning the regular season championship. And they picked up a really solid series win over Middle Tennessee State. And again, this is a program that did not exist literally 4 years ago. Like they're 2-1 on the season now. They lost game 1, 18-0. So like, if you're a Bowling Green fan, you're like, oh, great. We're down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and we just watched our team just get absolutely slaughtered. Game 2, they on the 14th, they picked up a 7-6 win. And then I've got the box score here from their win today, where they won 12-9 against Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee was up 8-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning, Graham. This is where the bats are going to come alive for Bowling Green. They're going to come alive late, hot, and heavy. Bowling Green in the next 3 innings racks up 8 runs. Middle Tennessee responds with 1 more of their own. It's a scoreless 10th, and then Bowling Green has 3 more runs in the top of the 11th. Newman doubled down the right field line. Then Birchmeyer singled through the right side. And Birchmeyer advanced to third. This sequence of plays here that I'm looking at, it's just this team got hot late. And I feel like that's going to be the theme of Bowling Green baseball yet again this year. They're going to find ways to just club the ball all afternoon long. And they did it and picked up a big series win in Murfreesboro.
Well, Bowling Green was the surprise of the league last year. And a big part of it was just how old this team was. This was a team full of seniors. So I think what we thought, that with this team losing so much talent over the offseason to graduation, including MAC Player of the Year Nathan Archer, that maybe Bowling Green wouldn't be able to reload, but they seem to be picking up right where they left off, including DJ Newman, just looking like the stud that he's been, the two-way stud, the preseason All-American pick. I think it's hard to pick against Bowling Green at this point.
I agree with you. Let's kind of talk about these pre-conference play player picks that we have here. D1 Baseball, if you guys haven't checked out their content, does a great job of previewing all the conferences and getting you excited for college baseball season. And they come out with great information. If you guys haven't looked at them, please go check them out. But we did a little bit of our research as well, to using some of their metrics, some of their information, to kind of come up with our picks and who we think would be player of the year this year and pitcher of the year this year for the Mid-American Conference. And this probably is I'm going to hear screams of 1,000 Rocket fans all over the country when I say this, but my player of the year and my pitcher of the year reside in Bowling Green, Ohio. I'm going Garrett Wright as my player of the year and DJ Newman as my pitcher of the year.
And I think that's kind of incredible. That's, DJ Newman, two-way player, and with all the Shohei Ohtani hype, we've heard a little bit of those comparisons talking about Newman on the hill and Newman at the dish. But he is a great pitcher and a great hitter, and really does a lot for this Bowling Green team. That being said, he is also picked as a preseason All-American, as well as D1 Baseball's pick for MAC Conference Player of the Year. So certainly DJ Newman, a great pick there. Interesting that you have him picked as pitcher of the year rather than player of the year. Why did you favor him that way?
So when I was looking at these numbers and I was kind of looking at stats, I think that it's got to be Garrett Wright. I mean, that we all know the story of the Wright brothers. No pun intended. Maybe slightly intended. But Garrett Wright had a brother who played for Toledo, actually, and he was also, I believe, a catcher for Toledo, Trey Wright. For me, I feel like this has been a brotherly rivalry, as well as a school rivalry. It'd be a great way for him to be like, haha, not only did I play for a school that beat you, but I also had far better accolades than you did. And of course, it's all out of love, but I really like Garrett Wright this year. He was such a commanding presence behind the plate a year ago. He was a freshman All-American, second team last year. He was the freshman MAC player of the year, or the MAC freshman of the year, first team All-MAC catcher, and first team All-MAC defensive team. That's a lot of accolades right off the rip during not only just a freshman year, but your true freshman year. Kid was 19 years old a year ago, played in 40 games a year ago. He broke the record for hit by pitches in a season, which, I don't know if that's a great record you want to break, but it's a record he broke. And he led the entire conference in on-base percentage and was in the top 30 and third amongst all freshmen in on-base percentage. This is a kid who can get on base, who can command from behind the plate, hence the defensive team. seems to me like he's a do-it-all kind of catcher. I get vibes of a little bit of Tyler Stevenson from Cincinnati, who can play really well behind the plate, but can also play really well at the plate and get on base and drive in runs. I Garrett Wright reminds me a little bit of Tyler Stevenson out of Cincinnati, and that's why I'm going Garrett Wright. I think he's got the tools to win the Player of the Year.
Yeah, you can't stop talking about your Cincinnati guys.
Go Reds! I'm so excited for baseball, baby.
Love that.
Tito.
Love that. Yeah, that's right. That's the and your Reds are going to be facing my Guardians coming up on Saturday in a spring training game. So,
which is why we won't be having an episode Monday, guys, because Graham and I won't be back on speaking terms by then.
Something like that.
Anyway, Graham, you've I've given you my players of the year, my pitcher of the year, gave you my explanation. Who do you got in the barrel? Who are you putting out as your player and pitcher of the year?
Well, I first wanted to talk a little bit about. We mentioned that DJ Newman is picked as D1 Baseball's Player of the Year. D1 Baseball also picked Keegan Johnson from Ball State as their Pitcher of the Year, and I have a hard time disagreeing with that. Keegan Johnson was great last year, and Ball State is a pitching factory. Mm-hmm. So turning out another Pitcher of the Year would not surprise me in Keegan Johnson. Only because D1 Baseball already picked Keegan Johnson as Pitcher of the Year. I'm going to go away from that. So for my Pitcher of the Year, I'm going to pick out a guy who won a couple of Pitcher of the Week in the conference last year. A guy who is just a stud on the hill for a team who really needs studs on the hill. 6'1" junior from Akron, Jared Schaefer.
Okay.
He was named first team All MAC last year. He had 13 appearances and starts through a complete game. Only went 3-8. But this is an Akron team who, again, we talked about struggled last year. So I don't know if it's fair to put that 3-8 on him. But a 4.31 ERA is great in the MAC, and struck out 10 batters against a tough Kent State side in May last year. So the kind of guy who has some real stuff. And if this Akron team can keep up their success this year, he could be a big part of that turnaround. And so love to see Jared Schaefer up there. Should be a stud all year regardless. But I think if Akron can string together some successes, he might be Pitcher of the Year. And so he is my kind of dark horse pick for Pitcher of the Year. That's now cheating because that's what I like to do. I'm going to cheat a little bit and name a bunch of guys who I didn't pick as Player of the Year, so that I can kind of get credit, like partial credit for picking them. So I did want to kind of honorable mention Blake Beavis from Ball State, left fielder. Yeah. Guy can rake. Definitely has a chance to be Player of the Year. Also love Ty Davis, also at Ball State. And it's so hard to pick a Player of the Year from Ball State because the team is stacked. And we know that whoever is the best team in the MAC, best regular season team in the MAC, odds are that their MVP is going to be the Player of the Year. And so Ball State having such a strong lineup makes it hard to pick a Player of the Year from them. So I'm going away from Ball State. I'm going to pick from last year's tournament champion, Western Michigan. And of those Broncos, I think Dylan Nevar is the outfielder from Western Michigan. I think he's the guy that we're going to go with. He is just an incredible guy. He was the tournament MVP last year for that Broncos team who stormed all the way through the tournament, took down the heavy favorite Bowling Green, and then took down a Ball State team who was pitching like crazy. And so just had an incredible tournament. He is a redshirt senior, so he's been around a while, and he is he just incredible. An all-around outfielder, plays in both corner outfield spots. He had a 353 average last year, 637 slugging, and a 1 dot or 1.081 OPS, which is anytime you're one dotting an OPS is impressive. This guy can hit, and he is going to string together a bunch of RBIs for the Broncos this year. He's going to be impressive, and both at the plate and also in the outfield. So he is my pick, Dylan Nevar from Western Michigan.
He's one of like your 10 picks.
He's one of my 10 picks. That's right. That's the if Blake Beavis and Ty Davis don't win it, and also shout out to Ripken Reese from Kent State, and I could throw 4 or 5 other guys in there, but no, my pick is Dylan Nevar, and I expect Western Michigan to be one of the top teams in the MAC this year, and he's going to be one of the top players from that team. Speaking of top teams in the MAC, let's just quickly, because we're running out of time here in the episode, give me your number one pick. Who's the top team in the MAC this year?
Oh man, you're doing this to me.
Well, I can go first if you'd like me to go first.
I would like you to go first so I can hear your explanation.
It's Ball State.
Oh, okay. Well, that was
you want me to explain
quicker.
that further? They're the best team in the MAC. They look stacked this year. They always they graduated Merritt Beaker last year, who their ace on the mound. But Keegan Johnson looks poised to step right into that role. I would never doubt Ball State pitching, and their hitters are ready. I mentioned Ty Davis and I mentioned Blake Beavis, but they also have Dylan Grigo and Alex Richter, who are also just studs. So this is a Ball State team who is stacked, and I expect them to be tops in the MAC.
I would love to see Ball State get back to that, because this is like the sport they dominated, right? This is their sport in the Mid-American Conference. You mentioned a couple guys from last year's tournament champions, Western Michigan, Dylan Nevar, Mike Maloney, Grady Mee, just a couple of other great players. I would not be surprised if Western Michigan ended up winning this the regular season again, and looked to punch their ticket to the college playoffs. I really think that they've got a solid team. A little bit of a step back. Ty McKinstry, the pitcher, we know him from last year's tournament when you and I were there. Did some great stuff while they were en route to a championship. But I think that this is a Western Michigan team who has enough tools to kind of get them through non-conference play. They show the young guys, hey, this is how we do things at Western. Let's go win another championship. So I like the coaching. I like this team. And I think Western Michigan's got just enough production to go win a MAC championship.
Yeah, I'm not going to make you pick your tournament 6, but if I had to pick a tournament 6 teams who are going to make the tournament in Avon this year, it would be in order: Ball State, Kent State, Western Michigan, then Toledo. What is that? 4?
Mm-hmm.
Probably Miami. And then I think did I mention Bowling Green?
You did not mention Bowling Green.
I did not mention Bowling Green. So we're gonna sub Miami for Bowling Green, and because Bowling Green is going to be good this year. And then I think Miami is probably the next best team, but I'm going to will it into existence. Not Miami, but Akron takes the 6th spot.
See, you're a lot more willing things into existence than I am. Not in order, but my 6 are definitely Toledo, Bowling Green. I think both are gonna make it to Avon. Kent State, even in down years, they're still good. Western, Central, and Ball State.
Central is a great pick. Central is also a very good team. But I have a hard time picking against Akron this year, just because I want to see it happen. And if not Akron, it's Miami. Miami is also a very good team this year. And those 6 teams, not necessarily Akron, but Miami in that 6th spot. Also the best uniforms in the MAC. So I don't know if there's a correlation there, but I certainly see it.
I love it. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry we went a little over 45 minutes. I apologize. But I just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in, checking out our content. We got a lot of great things on the horizon. Again, MAC basketball tournament coming up here in about a month. The 25th year of the tournament in Cleveland. Wrestling's winding down. Softball, lacrosse, baseball, all these great other sports are heating up. Tennis, track and field, just a lot of great things happening across the Mid-American Conference. So stay tuned here. If you haven't, please subscribe, like, review, give us a rating, give us a comment, whatever, on whatever platform you listen, whether that be Amazon, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Google, if that's on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and then most importantly, share. We cannot spread the word of Maction to other Maction fans without your help. So please share out the content. Get us in front of other Mac fans' ears, eyes, whatever, so that we can continue to spread the gospel of Maction. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Like I said, no episode next week. I will be in Boston for a national sports forum. So we will not have an episode next week, but we will see you guys here in 2 weeks. And we'll have plenty of great action for you guys then. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Thanks so much.